Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Aspie Bridge Show. I'm so happy to have you here today. The last 3 weeks, we've been talking about the emotional, the physical, and the way of going across into a new home, from the old home, the old address, into the new address. It's not just a matter of packing boxes. As you heard back when I had Yvonne here, it's about whether or not to move. And when you've decided that yes, you have a calling to be somewhere else, you then go into the process of what do I move? How do I move? How do I do it without getting myself exhausted before the move date? And then last week, I had a conversation with Erin about where are places that you can move that you are neurodivergent and you can feel loved and welcomed and you can have a chosen family in a new place. And we introduced the concept of neuro-inclusive community enrichment living, which you can be a part of. You can join the Golden Girl Gang, and we can send you in the direction of a forming. They're not formed yet. They need you, your words, your needs, your love, your passion to make it a wonderful organization. Yes, you can go into other communities that are already built, but wouldn't it be more exciting to go into a community where you bring your passions? And a lot of what we're talking about today is bringing your dreams into the forefront again. For so long, we've been serving others, we've been people pleasing, we've been doing what other people expect of us and saying, go away, dream, I don't have time for you now. But my guest today is going to help you realize that those dreams didn't die. You may have put them to sleep and ignored them, but they're still with you. And I would love to welcome you to Kim Possible Rackham, who I met 3 years ago. She was doing this awesome program, which is why I invited her today, that helps women come back to themselves again, to accept that they have value, to know that they have worth, to know that they don't have to push their dreams aside to help serve others. Welcome, Kim. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Oh my goodness, Suzanne, I am just so excited. I'm so grateful and thankful for being here with you today and to be able to, I often call myself a hope dealer. I use the word hope as honoring our personal excellence because we all uniquely have our own personal excellence. Wouldn't you agree? And so I'm so thankful again for being here today. And I would like to share as like Suzanne said, we've known each other, gosh, for 3+ years. And we just literally we're able to connect on so many levels. And so I know that each and every one of you out in her space, um, I believe you're gonna find some little golden nuggets. And I just love the series that you've been going through with movement. And I'll have to share a little bit about my move story that has not come to fruition, but it's in the place of that.
Mhm.
And so, I'd love to just say my coaching business. So I'm a certified health and a life coach with the Ultimate Source, and we discuss. And I'm not sure if you know, there's 12 different life areas
No, I
that you can
didn't.
tap into. I know that. Don't you think it's ironic that like there's one for every month, right? So that's the way I look at it. And for me myself, in becoming certified, and that it really is it really dials into many areas of what we're going to talk about today, like in that type of space of 12 different life areas. And I will actually put these life areas in your Facebook group if that's okay, so that
Please
people
do.
become
Yes.
more aware. Because I'll tell you, I think I only operated for the most part in probably 5 or 6 of them, maybe only half of the life areas. And that has a lot to do with what we're talking about today. And so, when we talk about women that have like spent years in surviving, carrying heavy loads, caring for everyone else, right? We become disconnected from our own desires. And I typically do not like to use the word want or need, because those two words, now this is a golden nugget. If you can remove the words want and need, they both represent the word lack. And
Mm-hmm.
that, in common language, we use those words all the time. So I replace it with desire. Desire is kind of a faith term that means of the Father. So it's who are you connecting to, right? And really, we have to get back to that. But going into our own desires, like, coming back to ourselves independently, it is not a selfish term. It is actually a return to wholeness, being your whole self. And I think that's just incredible. That's just spectacular. We were created so unique, right? And so many women that I work with personally are incredibly capable, like each of us are, right? No doubt.
And it
Um,
doesn't matter what side of the neuroscience you're on. We are all capable.
and it's beautiful, but I think what happens with women, especially in society, is that we carry our families, we carry relationships, we carry our responsibilities, our emotional weight. We carry them for years, decades. A lot of us, even at a very young age, I always say our 8-year-old child is still, within us, right? Energetically, emotionally. And so a lot of times, depending on how your upbringing was, depending on your physical and mental capacities, right? We all, when I look at neurodivergent, we all hold that space. Right. And so to talking about that, like when we're looking at all of that, along the way, we stopped asking ourselves a very important question, and it is, what do I desire?
Mm-hmm.
And it's taking that space, right, for us to open up the dialogue, be maybe just and start with you and your greater power. Just taking that time, right? That I call it faith rest, where you take that space for nothing else. And I'm a firm believer of journaling. So if you can start putting the what ifs, right? You talked about those dreams, those, I call them, you put your dusty dreams on the shelf, right? Maybe today is the day that you get to take them down, right? Maybe what if, right? The word what if really, or I get to,
I
right? Those
choose
things
to is
are,
another way to say
yes.
it.
It's, I get to, right? Because when we say I get to, it puts you in charge of your destiny. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, you know, so, so we know how to get through the day, right? We all do that either in thriving or surviving, right? We know how to take care of everyone else. We are always so good at that. We know how to be strong, right?
Yeah.
But I always look at, if your cup is capacity, how full is your cup, right?
Yeah.
Are you
Right.
running empty, right? Or are you really truly living a life with the living water rushing over? Like that abundance, right? That purity of who you are being. Because in the world, we're doing, the word doing is always taking action, and it's usually in survival mode, the doing.
Yes.
It's what we become, it's the being.
I was just going to say that it's not about the doing, it's the becoming that is crucial.
Yeah.
Doing is passive.
Oh yeah,
Becoming
it
is
brings lack,
focus.
right?
Yeah,
Going back
yeah,
to that want, right? I want to, I need to, the getting, right? But what if we get to? What if we get to do this rather than I have to, right? So it's just changing our words and changing the space around that, because words are energy, right? And energies either create thriving or striving.
right.
So
And I
it's,
come from an organization where it's called brave thinking language, and those are the very words that we use. I get to, I choose to, I would love to, are all those things that say, I'm important.
yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so powerful. So, it's interesting when we talk about like surviving, like it can become an identity for us. Wouldn't you agree? Like it becomes so my business Nourish, people say, how do you say that? Like, is it nourishi? Well, I created Nuri because it is to fuel or to fill, right?
Mhm.
Those areas of life. And then the S is for self identity. The H is for health. I'm an advocate because your health is your wealth. And
Right.
then the E is empowerment. It's that individual energy that you bring that makes you so uniquely. I mean, that puzzle of your masterpiece is in the
Yeah.
energy, right?
Let
And
me
then,
add one thing for my
yeah,
neurodivergence. A lot of people think of health and they think, well, yeah, I eat well. I don't eat a lot of candy or I don't drink a lot of soda. It's more than that. For us who are coming from perhaps traumatized childhoods or dealing with CPTSD, it's our emotional health that's just as strong as our physical health. Yeah, you may eat well, but because you come from a place where you felt invisible or you were just asked to keep giving, giving, giving and not receiving, your emotional health maybe I like to go back to, are you functioning or are you living, which is the name of the today's podcast. Yeah, you could be functioning, you could be serving other people, and how much is your emotional health? Where is your emotional health? Sure, you may eat vegetables and everything all day long, but if your emotional health, let me bring my hands up. If your emotional health is here, even if your physical health is here, that's not much better.
yeah, it's so true. In your health, when I define health, it is truly mind, body, and spirit, right? And our mind, body, and spirit really gives us the self-identity of who we are uniquely, how we're knitted in life. And so when I look about, when we talk about identity, um, in some cases, survival, as we all know in life, it's often necessary, right? For just a season, though, for a
Yeah.
season. But it was never meant to become our permanent address. When we
Mhm.
talk about moving, right? It's never
Yeah.
meant to be our permanent address, right? And
I'm
so
going
when
to
I,
jump in one more time. I'm sorry.
sure,
Is that
no.
if that's okay?
Mhm.
Okay, so I'd like to say the last 9.5 years I've been learning a lesson that was important for me to go through. But I was functioning at survival level. Now, as I talked about, I'm going to North Carolina where I'm going to swap that and go into living my life, truly living it the way I chose. I came to Texas because that was someone else's plan for me, and I accepted it for the lessons I had to learn. Whether or not a relationship could be completely revived, or if I need to find the acceptance of where the relationship was and keep going. Now,
Absolutely.
if you have a relationship that's kind of on edge, can you find that place in you where you can accept them for who they are and say they're not going to stop me any longer, which means they're not going to keep you in survival mode? Can you keep going? And that's where I think Kim is going to head to next,
Yeah.
with the what happens when your own health and dreams keep getting pushed down to the list, which is what my period of time in Texas was all about. My dreams had to be put away. They
Wow.
weren't accepted. So go
Yes.
ahead, Kim. I would love to take it from there.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that subject up because I know for me, it seemed like I'll just go back just a tiny bit of history for our viewers. And, I worked for the government for almost 33 years. I was in leadership, strategy, marketing, you name it, investigations. Like I wore a lot of different hats over those years. I was also a single parent for I would say over half of that time. And I felt like, that identity crisis that I had, I pushed everything under the rug, so to speak. I felt like I had all the moving parts all the time, but I really felt like I didn't have a place. I did not have that space. And when we talk about moving, fast forward, my husband and me, been looking to move to a different state. And I have been here. I love where I live, but definitely want a new adventure. And
Hmm.
and I've had, unfortunately, my mother, I've been a caregiver for her for several years, Suzanne, and you may or may not know that, but she's to that point in life. And it's amazing how we can hold on to these little areas of life and it keeps us in survival mode. And so my personal journey, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, but my personal journey was that I've had to sit things over to the side. And then, it can build up all kinds of emotional, right? Resentment, right?
Hmm.
I'm not enough, right? And then the other layers of stories come. Not only I'm not enough, it will never happen. Like
Yeah.
all those shadows start creeping back in on you, right? Can you relate?
Oh, I
I
can. Yeah. I mean, I was, but 2 years back when you knew me, I was like, well, I'll just wait for her to live her life out and transition before I go. And then I said, she's still in great health. How
yes,
long am I putting my life on hold for how long her life shall go? I can come back. And that's what I want people to know is don't put your life on hold for someone else's life to expire, transition. You need to live your life now. And I was saying 2 years ago, well, I'll just wait. And I finally get to a point where I'm like, what am I waiting for?
yes. Yeah, and we become so accustomed to being needed, right? That the confusion behind the need, we forget valued. We forget our value, right? And so in doing that, and I can totally relate to all of that you're speaking on, and I'm so thankful to hear that you're making that move. I cannot wait to watch how your new story, like I always say, your bestseller unfolds, right? And so, it's easy for us to just say, I'm fine, right? That word, I'm fine. When someone states that to me, I'm like, no, tell me more. I want
Yeah,
to know more because
right.
usually that is not the case if you speak long enough, right? And so, we become experts at functioning while being disconnected with ourselves. Wouldn't
Hmm.
you agree? And so,
100%. Yeah.
yeah, so just a couple of things that I've kind of put into place here is that the first step, I'm all about one simple change, just one, just one. I always, when I'm coaching, I'm like, one simple change per month creates 12 a year.
Hmm.
That is enough to forever change your life if you're
Yeah.
willing to stay the course with it, right? So, I mean, the first step is not fixing everything. I mean, think about January 1st and everyone, they're getting on the treadmill and they're eating kale and then within less than a month, they're off the wagon, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Everything goes, I mean, it is a known fact. I think it's like 92% go up, they go back to their ways because they never built that muscle, that the new capacity, right? So, so I'm really all about let's do the little things, because otherwise we'll never serve ourselves. Even if it's
Mhm.
one good thing, I tell people just hydrate well. Um,
Yeah.
my biggest thing, first thing in the morning, have a morning routine.
Yeah.
Read, journal, ask. I, I read scripture, me personally, but whatever your higher power leads, do it. Get answers, right? And so, a phrase that I kind of use that the question is not how do I do more? It is what am I being, right? That is costing me connection to myself.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's one of the areas that I look at. And so when I look at like many of women that I support, in fact, I would like to say the women that I serve, we are all in a state of neurodivergence.
Hmm.
We are. I said earlier, we hold space. And so, in that, I've spent years and we just talked about, I'm going through a lot of neuro training right now, the brain. I think it's fascinating. And part of
Absolutely.
the life areas that I teach on really focus into the neurotransmitters and how our brain reacts to life, the life areas and how we balance them. So it's just spectacular, right? Um, but some of the areas of expectations that we are not designed for, but somehow inch into our mind and body, right? The mind, body, and spirit are saying that it'd be like, well, she's just too much. Oh, she's too sensitive, right?
Hmm.
Um, she's inconsistent. Uh, she is difficult, right?
She's a
Those,
procrastinator.
right, exactly. Those are all shadows, they're lies, they're
Hmm.
untruths. They say 90% are lies or untruths. And so I always ask two questions, and this may be something that has been very permanent on my heart. The first question is, when that lie enters into something that just like those thoughts that do not make you feel well. The first question I ask is this a truth or a lie?
Hmm.
Because if you find, and I would say that it's probably more like 92 or 93%, they're all lies. And
Yeah.
so if you can take that, just that moment, going back to that rest, that faith rest, just go back to it and just say, is this a truth or a lie? Just pause for a moment and then come back to it and say, if it's a lie, which most likely it is, let it go, right? And replace it with something that's life nurturing. I am enough, right?
Yeah.
And secondly, if it is a truth, then ask again, what is it that I can do, right? What is that one simple thing that I can start incorporating, right? To let go of it. Just letting go. I say let it go and let it flow, right? So it's just a beautiful way to get started. A lot of times we feel so scattered in life. It's because we're taking on too much, way too much.
Right.
I just read an article on how it is so important for our brains to just calm.
Yeah.
Just
If
take
I
five.
can interject
Oh,
for a moment,
absolutely. Yes.
I look at some coaches who have 15, 20 clients, and I'm like, that's wonderful. And your bank account probably loves it.
Yeah.
But for me, you have to know who you are.
That's right.
15 to 20 may be manageable for someone else. But for me, if I start spreading myself too thin with even 6 or 7 clients,
Yeah,
I'm not giving the best to each client. And I'm
that's
not
right.
giving my best to each person who deserves my time. They're paying for it. So when I say I don't want to have all these women, I want women when they're ready. And I want to be ready for them. So the idea of 15 clients, unless they're in one group together and I can work with them as one, but
Yes.
even then they deserve the full of me. So
Oh,
go ahead. I like the idea of not doing too much, and you have to know where your personal boundary line is when you feel stretched too thin or feel out of what is the word? Out of value system. I mean, you're going against who you are.
yes. And, that brings me to that point. Less is more.
Yes.
Less is more because when you are so overwhelmed with what are the expectations of our world tells us as a woman, then especially as women,
Or as a businesswoman.
yes. And even more, we're supposed to do everything with imperfection. And I am really more about going back to hope, honoring our personal excellence. It's progress.
Yes.
We'll never get perfect. And
No,
I
no
think
such thing as
something,
perfect.
no, no. So, I mean, desires can feel unfamiliar after years, right? Of prioritizing everything that you do. And so some of the areas, I would love to, if I can, I have just a couple of questions here I thought I could ask.
Yeah,
And
definitely, definitely. That
yeah,
will
and
help us.
I'll put this in the Facebook group too, if that's
Good.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Right
Because I was
now.
going to ask you,
Mhm.
and I think this leads into how faith can help us believe that something is still possible. Going in and asking these questions, journaling about them, because Kim and I are all about that one word that really defines who we are for that time period, whether it's full year or even a month. It's knowing who you are. Go ahead, Kim.
Absolutely. No, I love it. Going back to the journaling, these are some of the ask that when I'm journaling in the morning, and my faith is stronger, I believe, than ever in my life at 63. And those are those areas, the movement that we talked about in life, right? The struggles, the expectations, all of that. And I think we get to a point, and I think as we're older too, that's where wisdom is created, right? Because we're
Yeah.
at a place where we're like, no, I don't need to rush here. No, or I can say no, and I'm
Yes.
okay with that. I'm always like, it's okay to say no. I was the yes girl to everything, and my story on my health, I ended up very sick for 3.5 years because of that, because I said yes. So saying no is power.
Mm-hmm.
Owning your worth is equal to saying no many times, right? So here's a few questions I'd love to ask
Oh,
our
please.
listeners.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in the morning, one of the things I say to myself is like, what sounds good to me today?
Mhm.
And then for me, what is God honoring? Like, how are we going to partner in this? Because I cannot do this alone, right?
Yes.
And then secondly, what gives me energy instead of taking it? Like if you look at, I'm sure that many of you have heard this, like, what does the perfect day look like for me? Well, Suzanne, don't we deserve the perfect day? It may not go perfect, but don't you believe if we illustrate our lives, that perfect day doesn't mean perfectionism. It means
No.
what's for us.
And I like to even say it for my women to take out the P word. What is my ideal day? So that
Yes.
they are taking in what is within they their believed capacity.
Yeah.
Now I don't want them to think that I have no capacity. Yes, you do. But what does my ideal day look like?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And just one simple thing at a time. One simple, you know. And then what have I been tolerating that I am ready to release or let go of? I mean, and a lot of times it's those little tiny tidbits that we hang on to.
Yeah. Saying yes when we want to say no.
That absolutely, going back to that, just say no. People look at you differently when you say, uh, I'm not sure I can do that. But
Yeah.
thank you for asking, but no.
Yes.
And again, I mean, that's power, right? And then also if no one were disappointed in me, what might I choose?
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
Okay, I'll put these in the Facebook group, but what
Please
if,
do.
right? Because I think we're always looking for that judgment. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, the judgment, wow, it's not for us to carry ever,
Yeah.
right? It's someone else's story, not ours.
Can I give you a quick little experiment I did with one of my clients? She
Yes.
was feeling a lot of negativity and black issues. And I said, when we take a can of paint and we have all those hurtful pains, what do we want to do? We want to put some white in.
Yeah.
We want to put some white in to take away the black. And I
Yeah.
said, if you take a black pen and write it out, that's where you make room for more white paint to go in. So you're theoretically taking the black and letting it go. Are you still there, or did I lose you? Did you freeze? Uh-oh. I think I froze.
Um, So, as I was talking about coming back to ourselves, it often begins with uh, something very simple, going back to that one simple change, right? Slowing our own preferences so that we matter again. And to
Mm-hmm.
me, that's so powerful. And then I would love to move into talking about that move, right? Because it's more than just a physical transaction. Would you
Absolutely. I've been
agree?
talking about that the
Um,
last 3 weeks.
uh,
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
and it's funny because that you share this without unbeknownst to me, right? And then I had talked in a group about moving, a small little series myself about moving. And of course, moving, I mean, it like you said, it involves boxes, it involves decisions, big decisions, right? Physical change. But I think about like the new chapter, like
Mm-hmm.
the energy around that new chapter, like you talked about. You have a new chapter coming up very soon here. How exciting. And it also asks us what to decide with how we are emotionally. Like, how are we going to take that in emotionally? Going back to I get to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those that I desire this new life. And what does that look like? What is that new chapter? Maybe it is nothing more than going to a brand new coffee shop or and reading a book in a coffee shop and meeting others, right? Maybe it's getting involved with a specific community. But it does take a toll on us. It truly does. But we also get to curate what that looks like, right? We get to take from that. Well, I think what talking about letting go from before, we don't have to take every painful experience into the next season. It's just that letting go of it, right? But we can take the wisdom that we learn in our moves, right? We get to look at a new type of strength when those
Mm-hmm.
moves take place. We get to, I think, and I really love, I feel that relational wealth is of the greatest gift
Oh,
that we've
yeah,
given, right? And
without a
so
doubt.
when I look at that, I think of the word compassion. And compassion starts with us first. And then when your compassion is at a place where you can release it to others, that's where hope sets in, right? But we also not only the compassion, but the creativity and of course resilience sets in for
Mm-hmm.
us. And you think about those small changes are dynamic in thriving in life. It really is. And so I
Definitely.
just love it. I love it. I am excited for my move. It's
Yeah.
like I know that there's going to be a lot, but that's what strengthens our muscle. That's what gets every
Yes.
move. And that move honestly can just be seriously something very small. Doesn't mean moving from state to state like it sounds like you are and I am very soon, right? We can release the roles. I love this, just kind of on my end here. We can release our roles, our beliefs, our goals, those patterns that no longer belong in our future,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And then we can release, it doesn't mean that we're pretending the past did not occur,
No, no, that's
right?
right.
Or did it happen? It means refusing to let it be a determining factor of our future,
Right.
right?
I want to just add in, there are two ways that you can look at going to a move if you have a business or a job you're going toward. Now, here's something interesting. You can stay with the safety net and say, I'm only going to move if I have XYZ already in place.
Yes.
Or you can move and say, I'm going to take one step at a time and let the infinite determine how the fate of that step goes and provide new opportunities as I go along. And I go back and forth. I work as many of you know, and I'm not sure if Kim knows yet. I've been working as an assistant manager for a store that brings in all different individuals with different capabilities. Dollar Tree is known for DEI, diversity, inclusion, and equity. And so I said, well, how can I become even a bigger coach? And that is to go in as an assistant manager and help cashiers, not supervise. I don't like the word supervise. That means you're over looking over them. You're coaching them to the next best decision.
Yes.
You're coaching them to the next best behavior. You're coaching them to empower them. I believe in empowerment. There are some people that believe in control. That's not the way I work. So my point is that you can go forward and you can have X, Y, Z planned out, and then you can get disrupted if X, Y, or Z don't work, or you can take one step at a time and let the decisions fall where they're intended to fall.
And I think that is the gift right there that we often miss out on. And that's where I think for me, where faith comes back into place, because
Yes,
we're not
definitely.
partnered, right, with the right partner. Like my partnership is with God, maybe yours is a different source, right? But I'm partnered with that because if I surrender that to my higher power, then I cannot lose. Even
Yes.
if it's a decision that I have to wait on, even if it's not the decision that I had hoped for,
Mm-hmm.
when we get out of our heads that agenda and we get into our hearts, like you said, as you don't manage, you coach, you mentor,
Mm-hmm.
you empower. And in that
Yes.
is the truest gift. That goes back to what I spoke of on wealth management, the wealth of relationship building. It's getting to hear their story.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting to identify their strengths even when they don't see it. And it's for each and every one of you that are listening today and in the future, right? And
Exactly.
so I have a couple, if that's okay. Do we have time? I just have a couple of.
Yeah, I'm good on time. You are absolutely. Let me just double check. Can you just speak on one thing before we go? Because I think it's part of this right here. Creating safety before stepping into that growth. How can we provide the safety? We were just talking about kind of letting our faith guide us, right? And not making every decision. But at the same time, I think there's a degree of safety we do need to put in place before we can allow the growth, the connection with our faith lead us. And I think that's important for my women to say, don't just step out on the end of the diving board and dive off. Have some safety measures in place. Like for me, I had to have a landing spot in North Carolina. I wasn't going to just drive in a U-Haul truck to North Carolina and say, where I end up, I end up. No, you have to have something in place, but that doesn't mean it has to be, you have to define every detail. Let's put it that way. You don't have to define every detail, but you do need to have a safety precaution of where you're going to spend the first night.
Yes, absolutely. So some of the areas, as far as, and we're going to talk about reconnection because I think that plays into every level of what we've talked over. So what does that look like? So first, it is, like you said, it's creating that space or a plan, right? Before we may take that jump. And what is that looking like? That's listening. It could be just looking at that plan, putting a plan in place, like, and then evaluating that plan, right? And then looking at that and identifying to listen to your body without your judgment. To look at your
Hmm.
body without, right? Because judgment will put us into scarcity mode.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so, like
definitely.
right now, you're going through a big move. So, our emotional health will tell us, oh, I can't do that. But look at, so creating that space around that and really going back to those questions that I talked about, right? Opening up that space, listening to your body, your intuition, listening to, journaling. I think one of the best ways we can do it is put our words onto paper. Because a lot of times when we reread those words, we're like, well, that's not even true at all.
Hmm.
That's the way I felt at the moment. Is that
Yes.
really a truth? Going back to the truth or is it a truth or a lie, right? Also building routines around your energy and your rhythms. And it changes from moment to moment. We have
Hmm.
to become, they say, transformation. Awareness is the first step of transformation.
Oh, yes,
So
definitely. It
the
has to be.
only way that we can really start like that one simple change is awareness. So I think building routines around your actual energy and your rhythm of life. And then I think one of the greatest things that I've learned in my life, I'm sure that you'll agree with this, Suzanne, is letting support in.
Hmm.
You have
Yes.
this wonderful group of asking, and I know for me personally, I'll raise my hand because I was the girl that didn't ask questions, right?
Hmm.
I will do it all by myself. I will do it on my own. You know why? Because shame came into place. If I ask a question, they may think I'm stupid,
Yeah, that
right?
was the
Will judge
preconceived.
me. Think
Yeah.
about that for a minute. That is one of the greatest risks in asking questions is power. It's like saying no, but asking is the power behind that. Making decisions from desire instead of guilt. You
Ah,
talked about
yes.
the story, right?
That's a big one.
Right? In
Yes.
your move. I get that. I've been going through that myself. And then I realized that my desire is greater than the guilt I've been carrying. It's just like my business coach, maybe this will resonate with some of you. Something that she said to me that really has been instrumental in my life about 5 years ago. She said, I was talking with her and I said, well, I'm the rock of my family. Everybody depends on me. And she said, Kim, she said, rocks, they don't move,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you have a rock that big, a boulder. Think about that you've carried for so many years. They never move. And to me, that's priceless.
Yeah,
It helped,
absolutely.
it helped me to start taking the layers off of the things that I held on to. And part of that's ego.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Because you believe that if you're the one who's doing all of this, right, then you're not dependent on anyone else. So it's going back to letting support in. Just saying, I would love your help.
Mm-hmm.
Your help, right? I know that in your move, Suzanne, you're going to be asking for all kinds of help, right? And then releasing the expectation that healing has to look perfect,
Mm.
right? And then I love this one, choosing relationships and environments that feel emotionally nourishing.
That's the big one right there. That is the very reason that I chose to move in the first place, is the very fact that I'm going to be with more people that think and act just like me. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't people in your current location that
Yes,
don't love and nourish you either, but
right.
for the greater good. There's an expression, what is the opposite of great? And
Yes.
it's good because you're settling for what you have. Yes, it's good, but you're keeping yourself from moving forward and growing.
That's right. And, I just love to coin in on this. It's sometimes the powerful transformation that we go through is not becoming someone new.
Mm-mm.
It is simply becoming safe enough to be who you always have been,
Yes.
how you were created, and the unique you. No one can ever take that place.
Yeah.
And so I would love, like, I will put some resources in the Facebook group and I'll put my website in there too.
Yes, please
Um,
do.
because you can go in there and you can connect with me. And I would love to share like those 12 life areas because I'll have to say for me personally, and doing the neuro work, that, like I said, there most of them I had never even captured in my life.
Hmm.
You're so busy being perfected in certain areas that you've missed out, and that's where you may not be moving physically, but in a mental state, if you're able to move through and balance those 12 life areas, you'll find that the emotional hurts.
Yeah.
The foundation of thriving instead of striving comes into place.
It
Truly,
just takes one decision. Work on one in a
yes.
week or in a
Yeah.
month. Don't take them all on at once. Just pick one at a time and say for the next 4 weeks, for the next 6 weeks, I'm going to concentrate on this particular one. And you'll
Yes.
find that as you take them slowly like that, you don't forget the first one you did.
Yeah.
It adds on like layers, like a sedimentary. We're talking about rocks. It adds on like the layer of a sedimentary rock. You just keep on adding the layers together. By the time you get to the 12th one, you're in a whole new direction.
Oh, absolutely. And it comes together. And then
Hmm.
your life just becomes so fulfilled with all of the areas of life that you're meant to thrive in. And so I always say, for me, my desire is to relate to people that they are dearly loved and chosen.
Hmm.
no matter what space in life we are in. I just coin that expression all the time. Always remember that you're so dearly loved and you were chosen to be uniquely you, to
Exactly.
nourish, right? To be filled.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I was just gonna say, you still have so much worth. Even if someone doesn't validate your worth, just knowing you're moving, you're taking steps. Only person who doesn't grow is the one who stays stuck in the mud.
Yep, that's right. Yep. Yeah, it's
Just
just that
one step at a
one,
time.
one simple change. That's it. Just I always
Absolutely.
say if you can do 1% better the next day, then you'll be a master at some point in your life, the master over your own life, right? Your best seller in your story. And your best seller in your story gives others hope.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kim, it's been such a joy having you today. I really appreciate you coming. Is there any final statement that you would like to add to our conversation beyond what the wonderful nuggets you've already added? Is there something you can help my women? I mean, I think the big one is especially for my women, is don't eat the whole situation. Just one step at a time is what I want to help my women understand, that just taking the steps
Yeah.
shows you that you are worthy of going forward.
Yeah, and I think with that, as you say, taking those steps is to honor yourself with that one step and just say, right now, I let go of the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it a priority. I always say, look at the top three in life for the day.
Yes.
You know, look at and gratitude in that change, being grateful, right, is so powerful. If you have to remind yourself moment to moment, this is the one simple change that I make today.
And if you
Maybe it
make,
is nothing
yeah,
more than saying I am dearly loved and chosen.
exactly. And I guess what I would like to say is if you do make a mistake, have grace in
Yes.
yourself.
Yeah.
Gratitude and grace will never get you in trouble.
Amen. Yeah. Grace, ease, and flow. I say that every day. Let's do life with grace, ease, and flow. It takes the perfectionism out of it. It gives us faith rest, and we are able to move forward. And
That's
in
beautiful.
my opinion, that's the best life.
It really is, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Well,
I'm
thank
so
you.
thankful for being here today.
I let our combined organization know, our Women's Coffee Club know that you were going to be on tomorrow. So maybe some will tune in and let them know that you don't need to be neurodivergent to enjoy this great content of today. And if you're on the move, whether it is to change coffee shops or change states, making a decision is the most important thing you can do for your life.
Yes.
All right. Have a great day. I will see you next week, everyone. See you next week on the Aspie Bridge.